Were you shocked
Yes,
when
yes,
on
10,
the
10%.
eve of or on in 2022, right, when the special military operation started and the war really blew up the way that we know it now, there was this decision by the EU Commission that now European airspace, EU airspace would be closed to Russia. And airspace is, of course, not the prerogative of the EU, it's the prerogative of the member states. But that was announced and it was just accepted. Were you surprised that this
Yes,
happened?
yes, 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 but surprised, but at the same time, the atmosphere was so much good now. It's as if this has given us an opportunity to show that we still count. And I think especially coordinating totally with the Biden and Blinken administration, the EU completely became a vassal. Completely became a vassal. I could tell how their behavior was. For example, on the day after that the US pulled out of Bagram in Afghanistan, the ministers, who most of them attend obviously the NATO meetings as well, because their countries are member states of NATO, were completely not surprised, I would say, shocked that they were not. I'm not saying that they were not consulted. They were not even informed. They got to know from the news, like all the others who are not ministers or those who are not NATO members. So this kind of relationship, very subordinate, very of a vessel, and the relationship was we don't even discuss or give another feedback. You just simply follow what comes from Washington. This was so strong. I was so amazed that even not small countries, because we've been used to see how we have to learn how to survive as very small countries, but to see countries like Germany, behaving like that. Well, it was
I mean, the,
I
the,
couldn't believe it.
the vassalage of Europe at the moment has reached a point where that I cannot really fathom anymore. And I just recall that moment when Joe Biden before the war, before 2022, announced next to Olaf Scholz that the US would end Nord Stream if Russia attacked, right? And
Yes,
he just
yes,
stood there. He just stood there and took it. Like, I mean, he didn't even say
yes,
anything. It's like this is
yes, yes,
and you probably remember like the politicians of the 90s and earlier. There were people, even people like Kohl and so on, the Germans. They
yes,
they were
yes,
way
yes.
more imposing and actually putting their
Of
weight
course,
onto the world stage.
of
What
course, they were.
happened to the
Yes,
Europeans?
yes, yes, yes. Well, I think they've lost. I think they've lost the plot completely. I mean, not to stand up for the interests of your country, to have someone telling you, I'm going to stop your pipeline, your lifeline,
Mm,
actually, not just a pipeline, and then blowing it up,
mm.
and then blowing it up, and nothing happens,
I mean, not only
and
not
and
only nothing
accepting
happens, these states are then complicit in the cover up and in making sure that we don't find out.
completely,
It's like it's bizarre.
completely, and then what makes you very angry is that recently some cable in the Baltic Sea was damaged, and immediately it was said, this is Russia. This is Russia creating problems for us and the undersea cable. The Swedish investigator came out and said, no, no, this is not state aggression. This happened because of a storm, and as you know, a ship simply ripped through the cable. And in fact, there are studies that show that in the undersea cables, so far, thank goodness, none of them have been disrupted because of any military or any terroristic attack. But most of the time, it's cruise liners or fishing or merchant ships. Immediately, they came out and said, "This is you know this is a rogue act of Russia," even though it wasn't the case. So it has become very sad, because I remember when I met Lavrov, and I was struck. Can you imagine? After we finished our meetings and we were going away and saying goodbye to each other, he told me, Mr. Bartolo, you're a brave minister. And I said, why am I a brave minister? I'm a very soft-spoken, gentle person. Why do you consider me a brave person? Because he said that in the press conference, the first thing you said was, I pay tribute to the millions of Russians who saved us from Hitler. I said, but what is so brave about that? It's just a simple historic fact. He told me, go and tell your colleagues that.
And that was
Go and
in
tell your colleagues.
that was in 2020,
Can you
twenty twenty
imagine?
one.
This must have been, yes, I think 21. I think the summer of 21. So, I mean, I think, honestly, these persons, people like Lavrov and people like Wang Yi, all they expect is not even agreement, but they do expect respect. You can't simply go around and treat them like as if they are. I mean, I remember, and I felt that this was very interesting. Um, when we were discussing with Lavrov, we were analyzing a bit the behavior of the European Union. He said, "Can you explain to me why there is such aggression and such animosity?" And I said, "Well, unfortunately, we do have problems that leaders do not know their history, leaders do not know their geography. There is no appreciation of culture and of respecting the cultures of others and to try and understand where they are coming from. In classic diplomacy, these are the things that first you must learn to be able to sit down with someone and have a decent conversation. All that is lost." He said, I remember when President Prodi came to us to tell us that the Baltic states and the Eastern European countries are going to join eight from that point from that part of Europe. Eight countries are going to join the European Union. Lavrov told him, "Ah, good. So we're going to have another anti-Russian club." And Prodi told him, "No, no, no, Sergei, don't see it like that. The fact that they will be part of our organization and of our club, we will manage to calm them. And we're sure we will manage to calm them."